WOUB-TV, the television voice of Ohio University, presents a program series designed to introduce you to the fine arts. Today's program is entitled Music, and here to guide us to a better understanding of this subject is Dr. Karl Ahrendt and Mr. Eugene Jennings of the Fine Arts Faculty at Ohio University. Gentlemen.
Hello. Mr. Jennings and I would like to have you focus your attention on this great subject, the art of music. Music is around and with us always. Sometimes I feel it's with us too much. We hear music as background to everything conceivable. It is a very potent force, and you conceive of a movie without background music. It would become quite an uninteresting thing. The music enhances and develops the action, or underscores the action in movies, and certainly in television.
I wonder if they could...
Oh, excuse me, Gene, go ahead.
I wonder if they could conceive of this fine arts program beginning without the theme song, for instance.
That's right. The theme song would have been just words, however well they may have been conceived and written, but underscoring with the music seems to heighten the effect that they're after, isn't it so, Gene? Well, anyway, we're so surrounded with this background type of music that I sometimes feel that we become rather insensitive to music. I'll call it music for its own sake. Where we would like you to think of the music that does exist for its own sake, and right here we might introduce a what do we call it? A term that everybody knows. We call it classical music. Classical means a little something different to me than it does to the average person, but I believe if we say classical music, everyone will know what we're talking about. It is abstract music. Now, we would like to speak specifically at this moment about the type of classical music that we call abstract. That is music that is particularly instrumentally conceived, not with the words connected with it, like a song or an oratorio, or something of that sort, but instrumental abstract music. Would you care to say a few things about that, Gene?
Just what you said about listening to music generally. We have this music that's around us all the time, but we don't really hear it. We're sort of insensitive to it. They say we have ears, but we do not hear, perhaps. And I think perhaps what we need to do is to retune our ears or reorient our ears as to what can be gotten if we really let them listen to classical music. I think it might be a good idea, just as sort of background for what we're going to discuss, to play just a little bit of a Beethoven symphony, the Seventh Symphony of Beethoven, the first movement, as an example of what we actually are talking about. Classical music, instrumental, which is abstract music, that it is music that has no other connotations. It is purely music for its own sake. Would you think that a good idea, Karl?
Yes, I think it's an excellent idea. Now, we'll play this music without any comment, and then we'll play a short part of it, and then we will discuss it and play it again. Now, I think that we had better talk about this a little bit. They heard the music. Just what did they hear? Are their ears so untuned, that it just flows over them without any reaction whatsoever?
Well, I think, Carl, it's so many people listen to music in this day and age in particular, where we're so insensitive to what we hear, and I don't think we really listen to it, well, you might say, intelligently, I guess.
Now, what do you mean by listening intelligently?
Well, I suppose you'd say, or if you do say listening intelligently, this presupposes some knowledge of music. And I don't mean by this that everybody has got to be a trained musician as we are. We're professional musicians, and God help us that everybody is not a professional musician. After all, we do want to keep our jobs, sort of. What we need to do, what we need to cultivate, are people who can listen to music and listen to it in an informed way, and not just be completely oblivious to it. Use it as background music, that is to say. It's true, any music can be used for background music. There's no definition of this is this and this is that. But it seems to me to use a work of art as sort of background for conversation or a cocktail party or something of that nature is, well, a bit of a sacrilege, shall we say.
Well, at least for the type of music we've just heard. What do you think that comes to the listener's ear first? What do you think is a salient characteristic of the piece we just heard?
Well, obviously, the rhythm, I should think, would be the big item. Wouldn't you think so?
Yes, I would definitely think that the rhythm is a dominating force, as it so often is with Beethoven. What do we hear? We hear this figure, this rhythmic figure of the dotted 8th, 16th, and quarters, and followed by a quarter, which sounds like da 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 da, or da 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 da. This dominates the first part of the symphony almost completely. And I think if they just train their ears,
of course, along with the rhythm, they also, of course, hear the melody.
Yeah.
But the melody, that is only half the melody. That is as though if you said, if I went to town, that's all. But he finishes it. He said the last half of the melody, da 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 dum dum da 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 dum. He comes to rest on this part.
Excellent. But the melody itself is dominated, isn't it so, by this rhythm?
By the rhythm.
That
is
rhythm.
the
I think
this
is the thing that makes it recognizable to the ear. And I think it would be an interesting thing if we could play this excerpt again and have them listen for this dominant rhythmic element that goes through it all the time. I think they would be able to listen a little bit more intelligently. At least this would be a first step in listening. Let's hear this again, I think, and listen for the dotted 8th, 16th, and 8th. Da 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 da. It's infectious. You know, this symphony is... Fine. This has not been named in vain. It's given a kind of nickname. This symphony. It's called a dance symphony because it has such rhythmic vitality. Called sometimes the apotheosis of the dance. The Seventh Symphony of Beethoven. I hope that you have got a little bit more out of it. From the fact that we pointed out what you should listen to.
I think this undoubtedly is true, Carl, and I also, assuming that somebody has a very limited background in listening to classical music, I wonder perhaps we couldn't or shouldn't say a few things about how one with this limited background should go about listening to music, in appreciating what he does here when he goes to a concert. Certainly, I would think offhand that nobody is going to ever like classical music if he doesn't have some basic interest or some curiosity about, or at least want to learn something about it. Seems to me that would be the first step. Another thing, it seems to me that when he goes to a concert, that he should go not with any preconceived notions or ideas that he's going to be bored by this, but with more or less an open mind. And of course, I think the most important thing is that he listen to music, that listen to this music. I mean, it's highly complex music. It's not music that he has to be a trained performer or a trained musician to appreciate. As a matter of fact, I think, as a general rule, that non-musicians who like good music probably get much more enjoyment out of it than trained musicians.
That's right. I agree with you, because sometimes if we listen to it too technically.
That's right. They can see the overall picture much better, I think.
I think one of the important things for them to do, if they go to an increasing number of concerts, would be to find out what the program will be, and then try and listen to the recordings of these pieces ahead of time, so that when they will go to the concert well armed.
Not once, but 6 times, perhaps.
6 times. How many times have you heard, let's say, the Fifth Symphony of Beethoven?
Well,
I don't
at least 100, I suppose. But still, it's every time I hear it, it's still fresh. I hear something new in it every time. And this, I think, is probably the difference, largely the difference between classical music and popular music. It is something that has lived through the years. It continues to grow. It still remains fresh. It still has something to say. But as you say, if you listen to this music on record before the concert and then go to the concert, perhaps the added visual aspect will add a great deal of interest, as well as the oral aspect, and certainly I think you'll come through with a great deal more interest and enjoyment.
I think your statement about the ability to listen to classical music over and over and over again is a very important one. I think this has a lot to do with the difference between that and popular music, which quickly dies because you can comprehend it so easily. It doesn't offer any new things to be discovered, isn't this so?
I think it'd be a very fine thing, Carl, don't you, if the students would perhaps make a list of the works that they know, the classical music, just as more or less a point of departure, and then sort of discuss this. I mean, if they're interested in going on, they can find out more about it and so forth and so on, and their repertoire will grow, and their knowledge and their enjoyment and so forth. I also think it might be a very interesting thing if they could discuss what they get out of going to a concert. I mean, what is their reaction to it? Are they uplifted? Are they depressed? How do they go about listening to it? Do you think this is a good idea?
I think it's an excellent one.
You have just seen another program in the series, Introduction to Fine Arts. Dr. Karl Ahrendt and Mr. Eugene Jennings of the Fine Arts faculty at Ohio University led our discussion today.